The greatest and most dangerous illusion we hold is that we are sane. True spiritual awakening is not a journey into peace and clarity, but a terrifying and necessary descent into the divine madness our rational world has condemned. We have been sold a lie. The lie is that spirituality is safe. It's packaged as a product for self-improvement, a soothing balm for the anxious modern soul. It promises calm, peace, positivity, comfort. We have manufactured a democratic spirituality to meet everyone's needs, a gentle path of mindfulness and self-care guaranteed to be reassuring and unthreatening. We have taken the sacred, the most wild and terrifying force in existence, and we have domesticated it. We have prettified it, trivialized it, made it politically correct. And in doing so, we have turned it into the most profound illusion of all, a tranquilizer to keep us asleep while we dream that we are waking up. The ancient understanding was precisely the opposite. The sacred is not a comfort, it is the ultimate challenge. The spirit is not here to make us feel better. It exists to shatter our complacency, to present us with the most radical threat, to take us into places where our thinking becomes useless and our cleverest ideas are left behind. The truth is that our modern, collective sanity is the deepest insanity. It is a consensus hallucination, a carefully constructed fortress designed to protect us from the raw, untamable reality of the spirit. The real journey does not lead us further into the safety of this fortress. It leads us straight out of its gates and into the wilderness we have been taught to fear. This is the path of divine madness, and at its core lies the forgotten story of the West and the secret, terrifying life of the man who unwittingly became its greatest modern prophet, Carl Jung. Our image of Carl Jung is a pious fiction. We see the wise old sage of Kusnacht, the balanced grandfather of modern psychology, a figure of immense and reassuring sanity. This image is a carefully constructed lie, a protective shield built not only by his followers but by Jung himself. It is a necessary lie designed to protect the world from a truth it could not bear, and to protect the truth from a world that would surely destroy it. The real Jung, the Jung behind the curtain, was a man who lived his life on the brink of madness. He did not stumble into the abyss by accident. He dove. His most formative and essential work was not done in a library or a consulting room, but in a deliberate, terrifying descent into his own unconscious, an encounter with insanity so profound that it threatened to shatter him completely. We now have his own accounts, from his secret red book and other records, of how he literally had to cling to the table in front of him to stop himself from falling apart, from dissolving into the chaos of the archetypal world. This was not a creative illness. It was not a psychotic break in the clinical sense. It was the unenviable discipline, known to the ancient mystics and shamans, of first encountering, and then finding a way to master, insanity. This is the only path for reconnecting the world of the human to the world of the sacred. It is a path fraught with risk and danger that demands superhuman strength. And anyone who tries to emphasize the element of control at the expense of the insanity is a fool. Right at the core of Jung's life lies the awareness that one comes face to face with the sacred not through sanity, but in the terrifying depths of madness. It is there, in that confrontation, that our normal collective sanity is revealed for the even more horrifying insanity that it really is. It is there that every fixed idea we have ever had comes crashing down. This experience can never be duplicated in a training program. It cannot be faked. It is what forever separates Jung from even the best trained Jungian. To him, the archetypes were not handy concepts to be thrown around in clinical supervision. They were direct, unmediated discoveries that almost cost him his life. In his raw encounters with the unconscious, it meant something intensely real to have to repeat, again and again. On absolutely no account must I identify with that archetype which is about to take me over. This is not the same as the modern therapist, sitting comfortably with Jung's sensible warnings in his pocket, believing he can manage the unconscious. That is the hubris of the sane man, the man who thinks he can confine the terrifying reality of the sacred to a 50-minute session. It is the insanity of separating ourselves from the divine while pretending to understand it. The truth Jung discovered, at the cost of his own stability, is that there is no safe ground. The place we think is safest is the most dangerous place of all, and the place that seems far too risky is where our only salvation lies. Why is our world so terrified of madness? Why have we invested so much energy in pathologizing the prophet, the mystic, the seer? To answer this is to uncover a foundational crime at the very origin of Western civilization. It is the story of a murder. The first philosophers of the West, the so-called presocratics, were not the primitive rationalists we imagine them to be. They were great mystics. Men like Parmenides and Empedocles were masters of a divine logic, a way of knowing that was itself a form of sacred madness. Parmenides, remembered as the father of logic, did not invent his system through rational thought. He received it as a revelation, on a journey down into the underworld, from the queen of the dead herself. This original logic was not a tool for dissecting reality into smaller and smaller pieces. It was an incantation, a magical key for entering another state of consciousness. Its purpose was to demonstrate that nothing can ever change or die, that every thought, every feeling, every perception exists in an unbroken, eternal wholeness. It was the language of the underworld, a reality beyond life and death. In its craziness, its uncanny stillness, it was the end of everything we think of as logic. Before logic, as we know, it had even begun. To take it seriously, as Aristotle complained, would lead any rational person straight to madness, and he was right. This is where the murder took place. Plato, the great architect of our rational world, could not tolerate this divine, inhuman logic. Like any intellectual, he felt the desperate pressure to think, to discriminate, to reason. He set about systematically dismantling the message of the underworld. He replaced the sacred laws of Parmenides with the endless, restless questioning of human reason. He killed the father to create a world safe for the son. This was the birth of Western reason. It came into existence with blood on its hands. It was an act of madness reacting to madness. The ludicrous human attempt to cover over the legacy of a divine ecstasy that sees straight through our world of illusions. We have been tricked into believing that our reason is a virginally pure, immaculately rational creation. On the contrary, it is a trauma response. It is a sophisticated defense mechanism built to protect us from the terrifying wholeness of reality. It is a scar covering a wound inflicted at the very beginning of our history, and this is the madness Jung was forced to confront. Down in the underworld of his own psyche, he was made to face the murder committed by scholars 2,500 years ago. He was shown that our reason is a poison that has slowly infected and destroyed us all. This is not a metaphor. It is the central, terrible truth of our civilization. Our sanity is the legacy of that ancient crime. We are the inheritors of a world built on the suppression of divine madness. And so, we are left with a choice. We can continue to live in the comfortable, well-lit prison of our collective sanity. We can continue to pathologize the prophets, to tranquilize the seers, to dismiss the mystics. We can continue to believe in the pretty, domesticated spirituality sold to us in books and workshops, a spirituality that promises healing without demanding the sacrifice of our reason, our comfort, our very selves. We can go on pretending that the journey is about becoming a more balanced, integrated, and successful individual. Or we can hear the call of the mystical fool. We can begin to understand that true awakening is not a journey into the light, but a descent into the darkness that our light was created to hide. It is the recognition that the madness we fear is not an illness to be cured, but the primordial state of reality itself. It is the path of Jung, the path of the Gnostics, the path of the prophets, who were torn to pieces by the archetypal forces inside them. This path is not for everyone. It is for the few who are willing to abandon the illusion of being a sane individual in a sane world. It is for those who understand that the real work is not to integrate the unconscious, but to surrender to it, not to master the archetypes, but to be broken by them. This is the secret of the underworld, the paradox of darkness inside the light, the sanity inside madness. This is the inevitable result of going to hell. And it is only by going there that we can discover what our civilization has lost. It is the only way to atone for the ancient murder, and it is the only way to find what lies on the other side of the end of humanity.